Have you ever felt like you've been holding on to a promise for so long that you've started wondering if it will ever happen? Like you've prayed, worked hard, done everything right, and yet the thing you're waiting for just doesn't arrive? Well, you're not alone. Thousands of years ago, there was a man named Abraham who experienced exactly that. He received a promise straight from God himself, a promise so huge it was almost laughable. But here's the twist. It didn't come true for 25 years. This is the story of God's promise to Abraham, how patience, trust, and persistence can turn even the most impossible situation into reality. The scene opens in the ancient land of Canaan. The night sky is crystal clear, every star glittering like a diamond. Abraham is standing there when God says to him, "Look up at the sky and count the stars if you can. So shall your offspring be." Genesis 15:5. A breathtaking promise, countless descendants, a family so large it could never be numbered. There was only one small problem. Abraham and his wife Sarah had no children, and they were old, very old. When the promise was given, Abraham was 75 years old. Sarah was long past childbearing age. Humanly speaking, this was impossible, but Abraham believed, at least at first. Year 1 passes, no child. Year 5 passes, still nothing. Year 10 passes. The dream feels distant. Doubt creeps in. Questions start forming. Did I hear God right? Did I misunderstand? Maybe this promise wasn't for me. By year 11, the tension between faith and reality becomes overwhelming. Sarah suggests a solution. Take my servant Hagar, maybe she can bear the child God promised. It's a detour born from impatience. Hagar gives birth to Ishmael, but this wasn't God's plan. And while Ishmael was still blessed, he wasn't the fulfillment of the promise. Sometimes when we can't see progress, we try to force the outcome ourselves. But here's the thing, when we rush the process, we often create extra challenges God never intended for us. Year 20 passes, Abraham is now 99, still no child with Sarah. The promise feels like ancient history, and then God shows up again, repeat the same promise. This time, Sarah overhears and laughs. Not a joyful laugh, but a laugh of disbelief. A laugh that says, that's impossible. But God isn't intimidated by impossibility. In fact, it's his specialty. The following year, at the age of 100, Abraham holds his newborn son Isaac in his arms. The promise delayed for 25 years is finally fulfilled. The lesson: Abraham's story is more than ancient history. It's a mirror for our own lives. 1. Delay doesn't mean denial. Just because something is taking longer than expected doesn't mean it won't happen. God didn't forget his promise to Abraham. He was working behind the scenes. Sometimes the wait is part of the work. 2. Faith is tested in the waiting. Abraham believed, but he also doubted. He made mistakes. Yet what defined him wasn't perfect faith. It was persistent faith, the kind that gets back up after stumbling. 3. God's timing is rarely ours. We want things instantly. God wants transformation, not just results. The years of waiting shaped Abraham into the man he needed to be to carry the weight of the promise. 4. Impatience creates detours. Ishmael wasn't the plan, but God still extended grace. Even our wrong turns can be redeemed. But why take the long, messy route when we can walk in trust? What it means for us today. We might not be promised descendants as numerous as the stars, but we all have dreams, hopes, or prayers we've been holding on to. Maybe it's a business idea that hasn't taken off yet, a healing you've been praying for, a relationship you've been waiting for, a purpose you're still trying to find. Abraham's life whispers to us across the centuries. You're not forgotten, you're being prepared. The waiting isn't wasted, it's shaping you. It's building patience, resilience, and character. So, trust the process, stay faithful even when nothing seems to be moving. Let the wait refine you, not define you. The Apostle Paul, writing about Abraham, said, "Against all hope, Abraham in hope believed." Romans 4:18. It's one of the most powerful descriptions of faith. Against all hope, when logic, timelines, and evidence said it was over, Abraham still believed. God's promise to Abraham wasn't just about a son, it was about a legacy that would eventually lead to nations, kings, and even the birth of Jesus Christ. That's the power of a promise fulfilled in God's timing. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than the wait. So if you're in the middle of your own waiting season, don't give up. The stars are still shining. The promise is still alive. If Abraham's story reminded you of something you're holding on to, drop a star in the comments to say, "I'm still believing." Share this video with someone who needs encouragement in the middle of their waiting. And if you want more real-life stories of faith, patience, and purpose, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications. Your promise might be taking time, but so did Abraham's. And just like his, yours is worth the wait.